Hi everyone. I want to welcome you to Karen Combs Studio YouTube channel. This is actually going on the FlossTube playlist as well as the quilting playlist. And yes, we are going to do a sewing room tour in just a minute, but you'll notice, and I'm already becoming emotional, you'll notice that in the introduction, I had a lot of photos of my quilting career, designing quilts, traveling to teach. You saw a few pictures of some of the booths I had at Quilt Market or an industry show, just a lot of different photos. And you actually got to see some younger photos of me. Where'd that person go? But I wanted to, before we did the sewing room tour, and if you're not interested in this part, just skip to the tour, but I would be remiss if I didn't take a few minutes and thank quite a few people, because I do have a little bit of an announcement, and some of you that are on the my newsletter from last year will already know this, but in 1988, I developed a beginning quilting class and started teaching. And some of you that looked at the first FlossTube I did, you know that I've been quilting and stitching for decades. Quilting was, and still is, such a passion. And I wanted to teach it. I wanted to share what I knew and what I found out and things like that. So in 1988, I may have to stop this video. Sorry, no, I'm gonna keep going because this is real. In 1988, I started teaching. And it was wonderful. By 1994, I taught at my first national show. And that's why I decided June, it was June 1994, that's why I decided June 2024, 30 years, I would decide to retire. Now, here's the thing, when you're self-employed, you can start right back up at any time. So I am not saying I won't ever be on a quilting cruise again or doing some teaching via YouTube. But my husband and I are getting ready to retire and travel and do all the things that we've kind of put off. But I wanted to just, as you saw, take a look back at the fabric design, the book writing, the teaching. I put a little bit in there, put a few quilts in there, but it's been wonderful. And I wanted to thank so many people. The editors at AQS, magazine editors, the show chairs, the program chairs. Oh, if you knew how much work went into having a program from a teacher. Program chairs are the unsung heroes. I wanted to thank them. And most of all, I wanted to thank all quilters for all the years that came to my classes. I want to thank you. So I'm going to stop with the emotional stuff because I can still teach via YouTube. It's just the travel is tough now. So that's why I decided to, 30 years for the first time I taught nationally. It's going to be good. But I don't know why I'm so emotional, but I am, and things are fine. We're good. I may have to redo this, or I may just leave it. But anyway, let's take a look at my sewing room. I've always been interested where people sew, so you're going to get to see that. I'll show you a little peek at my office, and I'll even show you this, my Zoom studio, which that started in 2020. As you know what happened in 2020. I had so many things lined up. We were going to be doing, I think, 5 different quilting cruises. We got 2 done, and then everything shut down. I was supposed to judge and teach at an AQS show. many quilt shows, a lot of quilt guilds. Did a few of them until March 2020, and then it shut down. And kind of waited a little bit thinking, oh, it'll come back. Well, when I saw after a few months it was going to come back soon, I told my husband, I said, I want to keep teaching, but I need to do it virtually. Guilds are looking for teachers because they want to continue as well. And thank you to those program chairs when we first started doing virtual teaching, because we all just were doing it on a leap of faith that it would work, and it worked well. But this is the Zoom studio we set up, and I worked with over 80 guilds doing lectures and classes during, actually from about August 2020 until I had my last guild lecture that I did 2 weeks ago. So let's take a look, and I apologize for becoming emotional, but real life. So I'm going to turn this one off and get my selfie stick, but you're not gonna see me, I'm gonna flip it around so I can show you my sewing studio. And it's for quilting, it's also for stitching, show you little things like that. So get ready for the tour. We're gonna start out here because this is actually, well, the backyard and the side of the house. But this lot that we built our house on 20 years ago, as you can see, the lot slopes, and so we positioned it so I could have my office and sewing room out of the dirt, basically. So we're gonna come on in, and this actually is a pass-through room to get to the office and the sewing room, and it was my son who suggested that I put a table here, which I used to spread out when I'd be designing fabrics or writing books and laying sheets out to take a look at. A lot of books and magazines. I started collecting Starbucks cups when we would be different locations, but just some books. You'll see some cross stitch and some stitching thrown around here. This is my office where I spent the majority of my time when I would be at home, sometimes working 12 or more hours. But you can see, set up a area so I could again spread out here. And isn't that just the standard 2 file cabinets and a countertop? But it's perfect. We used to have a giant laser printer on there, but we've been able to downsize to a smaller printer. But some of the books that I wrote and the covers, this is where I spent a lot of time, and if you ever got an email from me, this is where it was from. So now I'm gonna turn around without hopefully making you too sick. So let me turn around here. Yeah, that old radio, that was actually my mother's. It's a cassette radio. All the issues of Quilters newsletter down there, the dog toys again. So I'm gonna come back here, and here is little Benji, who's getting older, sleeps a lot. Benji, can you say hello? No, he's out of it. Have a few memorabilia, things like that. Putting some of my stitching up here. These were nails that already existed, so I've got to reposition them as I get more, but that's what I have for right now up. So let's go into my sewing room. This is the door that we just came in. So you can see you've got a lot of big windows, a lot of light, because I knew trying to judge colors, things like that, I needed true light. So that's why we have all the windows. And when I film, I am sitting at my sewing table, which it has a leaf that lifts up. And so we'll get a close-up, because I know a lot of you have asked about what's behind me. But you can see how I've positioned my sewing table so the light hits me. And the design walls over here. So we'll take a look at a few things here. But where should we start? Let me kind of go around here. So this is a table I found at Hobby Lobby. I've got a couple sewing machines I switch back and forth with. This is one down there, and I've got some hoops. The drawers have some of my knitting needles. Of course, the TV. And you've probably seen this on the FlossTube, this little drawer. And right now, I have silks in there for Sarah Milthrop and Hannah Campbell. So that's what those are. This plate here, I was the keynote speaker at Sauter Village in 2004. And so they took one of my designs and made a plate for it. So that was very special. This is one of my designs. I don't think many of you have seen that because it's mostly stayed at home, but very dimensional. Now I'll talk about this on one of my future floss tubes, but I am laying my works in progress on this rack, and it's usually covered with that tea towel. But that way they're not folded, and it's a cloth covered area, so they're nice and protected. So lamp for the sewing machine. So I can use this table to stitch at and work at, and when I cut out quilts, I usually raise that leaf and put my big cutting mat there. We'll see that in a minute. So let's go back here because I know that you all are interested in what's back here, what you see from the floss tube, what's behind me. Now I'll show you where I usually stitch is sitting right here, and there's the Patoki stand. And this is actually just my sewing chair, but I can put my feet up on that little ledge underneath there, and I actually pull, let me see if I can do it, pull this drawer out. Actually cleaned it out yesterday. And I can put that right there, or I can sit up, but this way it's actually almost a little recliner for me, so it works well. So I've got some of the things I use all the time. There, I need to tighten that, I think. So use different trays to organize, and these are the things I use all the time for stitching. I've got one of my machines here, and this is actually not the machine I made most of my quilts on. That machine we can't get parts for anymore, and it still works, but I went ahead and got another machine to have, because when you're working on many deadlines, you can't be without a machine. So that's the one that I replaced it with. But let's take a look over here, because I've had some of these thread holders forever. You'll know this is how old I am. I still have DVDs and CDs. So I've got thread here, and just some memorabilias, again, things from trips. This thread holder, I don't know if I can tip it out without messing stuff up, but it actually tips. So I've had that for over 40 years. And those little koalas, some of them were given to me by students. Some more memorabilia. I had these from some quilters when we were in Turkey. And you saw this on one of the past floss tubes. This stitching box or thread holder. Right now I've got flower thread, which I can condense to give more room. So I've got flower thread in the first couple. Then I've went ahead and got a whole different range of red silks just to have. So if I want to try a different red, I've got it. Those are all Veriswa. And this one, I think this is yeah, Dorcas Hayes, just some of the silks. So I've got room to grow here. You've seen this flower frog, which I've put some of the decorative scissors in, and some of my hoops. Now this is what a lot of people have said, what is that behind you? This is a cabinet that if you have a lot of Bernina feet, you can put the racks there, and the larger bobbin racks and larger feet fit there as well as the smaller ones. So that's what that is. So I can just turn around and grab the foot that I need. All right, let me back out of this corner. I've had more questions about that. I got it on either Etsy or eBay, and if I try to remember, I'll put a link. They're handmade. I love it. It's perfect. I do have the Barbie box, but this is more handy for at home, and I can use the box when I travel. Now I do have some drawers here, which I'm not going to show you because they're a mess, but I've got different supplies in there. And we're only going to take a peek at this closet for a second because, oh, it's a big, giant mess, which I've got to sort out. But when we built, let me back up. When we built this house, the builder suggested we take the back wall, see if I can back up without tripping, the back wall, and put a closet all the way across. So that's why there are 2 doors. And so I have storage, and I have filled it over the 20 years. Really, we're only taking a peek because it's just a mess. Just lots of stuff that I use all, that's enough. It's embarrassing. I've got to sort that out and straighten it up. But here is the DMC box that some of you have asked about. And I do have all the DMC. This is available on the DMC website. It comes with all of the thread. So I have them in numerical order, and then I keep a note. If I take one out, I replace it. This is the another part of the koala cabinet where, again, I have put different things that I use, organized them, a lot of threads, some of the feet, lots of needles. I do like using these cones, and I do have a video about using cones for sewing. You can take a look at that, and also one about needles. And whoop, there we go. Just some different things. Now, let me back up here. So you probably saw on the opening, let me back up. So my design wall is here, and that door, which will open in a minute, actually has a ironing board on it. So that's usually what I do is, let me back up. I could put an ironing board next to there, next to my stitching area, but I purposely put it over, so I have to get up and move because it's too tempting not to move. So that's why I put it there, but I would work from my cutting area to the ironing board to the sewing machine. So in this closet is a lot of fabric, and a lot of it's fabric I designed. So there's the ironing board that will flop down, and that entire shelf up there are recent things that I designed, and then a lot of these are as well. I have them somewhat sorted by color. And of course, we have the stitching fairy there protecting everything. And my FOF 7570, which the majority of my quilts were made on, is down in there, as is my featherweight. So that's the fabric. A lot of quilts made out of the fabrics that are in there. All right, so this cabinet I bought at Hobby Lobby probably in the last year, and it's all full of stitching supplies. Those bottom drawers are a little bigger, so I've got, let me see, 40 count linen. You see, I've got 40 count linen in here, These are pretty shallow, so I've got some of my threads, which I did have these hanging over here, but I was afraid the light would get to them, so I've just put them on rings in alphabetical order, and that's what all of these different cabinets have, just threads, supplies, things like that. A few of them don't have much in them yet. The design wall, which you saw that in the opening with my quilts in progress. This is actually not one of my designs, but those of you that recognize English paper piecing, this is the La Paz quilt, and every one of those rosettes is another one of my fabric lines. So I'm still working on it, but I thought that would be a nice tribute. So going back down here, these are my whips that I'm currently working on. And here, then I have, and those of you that have been stitching for many decades will laugh, but these are my charts. This brown basket are not kitted. The other two baskets that are stacked up are kitted or partially kitted, and then some more whips here. Now this is an interesting corner, because when I first set up my room, I knew I needed a cutting area and I needed storage that I could get to that wasn't in the closet. So went to Lowe's and got the closet organizers. That's what's on the corners. Then also got an L-shaped countertop, and there is a leg in the back. Let me see if I can see. There's a leg back there. You've got to have that for stability. But every one of these I've got organizers in. This is where I did a lot of cutting. So there's my cutters, scissors, rotary blades. So I've got every one of these kind of organized, my English paper piecing supplies. These are my favorite smaller rulers. And I don't know if you can see, but there is a plastic insert so things don't fall through. That's from the Container Store. Ooh, that one's heavy. More supplies down there. Wanted to show you this with my rulers. Can you see that's a file holder, like you'd see on the door of a doctor's office? There. But then I've got some of my bigger rulers right there. So as I stood to cut, I could just grab the ruler I needed. I could always find it between the smaller ones in the drawer or the bigger ones. So let's see, some of the other things that I use. This is all markers and iron cleaners and a couple of crochet hooks thrown in there. These are all scraps of some of my fabrics that will probably be going into that quilt on the wall. One of my books back in there. Here's some more of my fabric line that I'm waiting to put in that quilt. And oh, what is that? Laura Standish down there. I need to put her on that rack. So then what we have here is kind of a combination of stitching things, organization. There's markers. Got this at the office store, very handy. Keep the markers in there. A lot of memorabilia. That little blue tin was from Amsterdam. That was hand painted by an artist in Bali. Just some different things. That's where I keep notes about what I'm going to talk about on my floss tubes, and then my book of days, and whatever book that I'm currently working on. So as I'm sitting and stitching, you can see the TV there, you can see that quilt. So whether I'm working at the sewing machine or sitting and stitching, that's my view with little Benji still sound asleep. So then we'll go, so this part of the house is the walkout basement. Then when we go over here, you're actually going to see the Zoom studio, which this area is the basement. It's all basement, but this part doesn't have any windows because it's in the dirt, as we say. So this corner, this is where I used to have tables set up to lay things out as I'd get ready to pack for trips, and I would lay out all the quilts and everything right here. But when 2020 happened, I told my husband, I think we can set that corner up. I can move things around. So we have the working table, and let me show you. So I do want to show you how I set up the design wall, which may help you. So this corner is pretty good size, and I knew I wanted a design wall because you can see I've got quilts pinned into it, and I didn't want to pin them in the wall. So this is temporary, although it's been here 4 years, so it's worked out well. But what it is this is foam core that you can get at the office supply store. Some of these are big sheets and some are smaller. By big sheets, I mean this one, I think is 4 by 6. That big one there. And then I have some smaller ones here. But I put them up with command strips. And then what I did is this is a very long piece of flannel. So things will stick to it, or I can pin to it. Right now, I have the quilts pinned into the foam core, but when I'm teaching a class and we break out the different patches, I can stick it right to the flannel. So that's a way you can do a temporary, yet could be permanent design wall without harming the wall behind it. Command strips, foam core, flannel. So this is, those of you that have taken any of my classes or lectures virtually, this is what I'm looking at. So we've got one monitor shows what you're seeing, and then another monitor shows, which I don't have Zoom pulled up, it shows Zoom. We have a switchboard so I can work everything. We've got one camera there, which is the main camera. We have a close-up camera. We have a boom mic, and you can see we have 3 box lights, so there's no shadows. And I actually pull one of the box lights when I do my floss tube. And I control everything right there on that little ATEM Mini that then I can go between the close-up camera, the main camera, and I can also pull up any videos of step-by-step sections of the class that I'm teaching. So that's the Zoom studio, which I'll probably keep set up because I may do some quilt class teaching from there. Certainly when I'm attending different Zoom lectures or guild meetings, it's nice because I can see everything. The screens are big enough so I can see what's happening. And I'm gonna show you, this is where I have the quilts that have all gone to lectures. I'll show you a couple of those. But a restroom right there. And this, my kids fight over this chair. They all want it. It says, no, this recliner fits me. You guys can't have it, even though it's 40 years old. Now this is where I've got some yarn stored, and I've just reorganized it. So I've got some of my whips I'm not working on are right here. I've got some 36 count linen, might be some 40s in there, and then the lower count 28, 30, some linen there, and then project bags that haven't been filled yet are waiting, and then yarn, because I do like knitting, so I've got that kind of organized. All right, let me spin around. Let me back up so you can see that baker's rack I just got at Hobby Lobby, and just put baskets there so I can organize. All right, we're gonna turn around. And the quilts that traveled with me to lectures and classes, and the speakers are right there for the Zoom lecture. We had to get them away from me, so we didn't get feedback. So that's why they're across the room. And I need that step stool to turn these things on, because these lights are almost 8 feet tall. But the quilts that I traveled with lived their life spread out flat on a table. I could put them on a bed upstairs, but it was easier to pack. So people have often asked, how do you store your quilts? Well, all the lecture and class quilts always laid flat, because it's when the quilts are folded and compressed, you get lines that you can't take out. So as soon as I would put them, I'd put them in the suitcase right before I left. As soon as I got where I was going, I took them all out and laid them on the bed so they wouldn't have folds in them. But lots of, I don't know how many quilts are here. Lots. It's hard for me to show you this, but just, you can see they're multiple deep. I don't even know how deep all those go. But these are different quilts that you've seen at lectures. So anyway, let me back up, and that's the stairs, going upstairs. So this is my studio, both the quilting, Zoom, and stitching. We do have storage down here, but it's unfinished, and you're not seeing that. You thought the closet was a mess. Yeah. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this tour. Hope it gave you some organizational ideas. I know I have a lot of room here, and I've tried to set it up as useful as it could be. When we built this house, we built it with my business in mind, so I didn't have to rent office or studio space. And then my husband also has a home business, and you're not seeing that, but it's up above the garage. He has a big area up there. So anyway, let's go. Just take one more little peek, because I know that when you see me talk, you're like, what is that behind her? I don't know what to do with all my CDs. I still do listen to music, and I do have a CD player. I don't know, whatever. That's not important right now. But you'll see what I'm working on in the next FlossTube. And until next time, I hope you've enjoyed this, and I want to say thank you again to all of those people over the years that I have met while I was on the road or doing virtual classes and lectures. You've touched my heart, obviously, and I want to thank you. And hey, I'm not going anywhere. I'm still on Facebook. I'm still on Instagram, still doing videos for my YouTube channel. So I'm around, just not dragging 50-pound suitcases and 100-pound shipping tubs everywhere. So again, thank you. I never know how to finish. My husband says, you need an ending. Yeah, I guess I do. instead of just saying, yeah, I'm rambling. Okay, bye. But you know what? Yeah, I'm rambling. Bye, everyone. See you next time.